Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 12. And when I tell you that this episode made up for last week's chaotic / filler episode, I was here for it. Everybody, for the most part, clocked into work. The drama towards the end with Drew and Shereé, I was here for it. Miss Sanya, I'm about to wear you out because, sis, this show has been going on now for 14 seasons. You've been a fan. You've been watching the show. So you know what to expect when it comes to throwing a proper party. I don't know what that was, but that party you threw was giving insufficient funds. But let me not jump ahead. Let's just get right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. So we open up this episode with Shereé at home, and she's talking to her son, Cairo. Cairo is now 26 years old, and I think he's in the music business because Shereé was asking him when she could hear some of his music. And he said something like, well, you can hear it when I get the clean version. And she said, well, I want to hear both versions. So Shereé lets Cairo know that she's working on She by Shereé for the 50 millionth time, and how this time she is finally going to get it off the ground and make this an actual line. So she tells him that she's going to need him to model the clothes for her. He's in agreement. Then she says that this is it, is now or never, because if she does not get She by Shereé off the ground, then she's going to have to plan a funeral for it because it just won't be happening. And I said, well, girl, get your funeral clothes out now because from the looks of things, there's still no website. We still don't have any joggers. And the funniest part about this whole thing is the fact that season 1, when she was talking about She by Shereé, she was talking so grand about how it was going to be a lifestyle brand and all the high-end department stores like Neiman's and Saks and Bloomingdale's. And I mean, we haven't gotten anything. Shereé, I really hope for your sake that She by Shereé is at least out by the time this reunion airs. So now we jump to the next scene with Kandi at home. She and Todd are in their guest house getting ready to celebrate Ace's 6th birthday. Kandi says that because Ace's birthday fell on a weekday this year, she's doing something small at their house, and then on the weekend, she's going to have a big party for him then. So it was adorable because all of Ace's cousins were there, and then we saw Drew come in with her kids and Kenya with Brooklyn. I thought this scene was just so adorable, especially when Ace came out and they surprised him and said happy birthday. And he was like, it's my birthday. I was like, oh my gosh, like, just so cute. And it was really nice because Kandi and Todd rented out a game truck, so all the kids went over there to play. While the kids are in the game truck playing, we see Kenya, Drew, Kandi, and Todd talking about the whole security fiasco. Remember a few episodes ago when that young man trespassed on their property? And so Kenya suggests that they look into 24-hour security. Then she goes on to say that Cardi B and Offset live down the street from her, and they have 24-hour security. So they change gears in the conversation, and now Kenya starts asking Kandi about how Kandi and Todd's play is doing. So Kandi says that she's devastated because they had to shut the play down because several of the cast members got the new strain of COVID. So Candy's really upset about it, and she goes on to say that they really didn't have a choice but to shut it down because the play was going to go bankrupt. I have to say, I really felt bad for Kandi because you could tell that she really was hurt about having to shut down the play. And when she started crying and talking about how she came from a single-parent home and she didn't grow up with a silver spoon in her mouth, how she's worked hard for everything, and she just wanted to level the playing field for more Black creators on Broadway, you could tell that it really hurt her. And I mean, I would feel the same way too because not even from a financial standpoint, it's just the fact that something that you work so hard for is ripped from under you. That hurts. And can we quickly discuss how everybody, and I mean everybody, is just so sick and tired of COVID? It just seems like every other day there's some new strain. You know, we get the numbers down, then they go right back up again. It's like, we've had enough. And then now we're dealing with all these monkeypox cases. I'm like, are you kidding me? And those pictures, if you get monkeypox, look scary as hell. I'm like, my God, can we please get a break? But we're not here to talk about all that, y'all. We're here to have a good time and talk about this show. But I definitely felt Kandi's pain because she's put in a lot of hard work, and for it to be snatched away from her like that, anybody would be upset. Now, while all this is taking place, we now jump to a parallel scene with Marlo, Shereé, and Sanya over at Marlo's La Archive studio. So, did you guys notice how Marlo kept trying to sell them on the pieces that she had in her showroom? And I was thinking, why would I pay $225 to rent out a Louis Vuitton swimsuit when I could just go to Louis Vuitton and buy it and have it? And I want Marlo to stop dry begging and trying to force their hands to rent some of her pieces. Now, I thought it was interesting because when Marlo was telling Shereé before Sanya got there about how her nephews are just playing video games all day and not showering at her sister's house, and so she was saying that she called up her sister asking, why are you allowing this? And I'm thinking, sis, you really have no right to critique your sister's parenting skills, seeing as how you just dropped them off at her doorstep out of nowhere. And I'm sure your sister doesn't really have the patience, the time, or the energy to now discipline 2 other kids when she has 4 kids of her own. So now we see Sanya finally arrive, and they start discussing all the drama that went down on Marlo's awful trip at Blue Ridge. And so she goes on to say how much she likes Kenya, but Kenya ultimately brought the trip down. So I was confused by that because I said, Sanya, how are you placing blame on Kenya, saying that she was trying to ruin the trip for everybody? She came to dinner, letting you guys know that she was there. She was staying in her own cabin, but she would meet up with you guys for the activities. Marlo was upset by that. Marlo was the one who's being a control freak, talking about Kenya had to come and stay with them or else she had to go home. And then Marlo abruptly canceled the trip. How did Kenya go in there trying to ruin anything? Then Marlo jumps in saying that she's actually disappointed in Kandi because Kandi showed her true colors on the trip and how what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I'm thinking, again, I don't understand what Marlo's issue is with Kandi and Kenya. It's obvious that it's jealousy because Kandi has done nothing to you. She's been a great friend to you. She's tried to give you opportunities. We all know that Kandi had greenlit a show on WeTV for Marlo to star in, but Marlo ruined that opportunity. Okay, so I don't understand how Marlo can even fix her lips to act like Kandi's done something to her. Marlo is just one of those people where she wants to find fault in you. You could help her out 1,000,000 times, but the minute that you don't say something that she wants to hear, now all of a sudden you're the worst person in the world. She can't stand you. You're not a friend. Like, there's something off. Marlo does not have the capacity to be a friend or to even keep friends because she's just such an awful person and she's so miserable. I really can't wait for this reunion because the way Kenya and Kandi are about to rip her a new one, like, I'm going to be there with bells on because Marlo has been insufferable this entire season. And I'm also excited for the Jamaica trip because from the previews, it looks like Marlo gets into it with Kandi and Kandi lets her know I'm not the one or the two. And I cannot wait. So now Sanya brings up the New York trip and how it felt off balance to her because some of them had a +1 and then some of them didn't. And obviously she's talking about Shereé, Marlo, and Kenya being the single girls. So she continues on by saying that for the Jamaica trip, she wants everybody to bring a +1, either a friend, a lover, but everybody has to bring somebody. Now, when Sanya kept repeating how she wanted them all to bring a +1, I was thinking, why do you care so much? What if they don't want to bring a +1? It doesn't affect you in the least if they show up solo or with a +1, like, as long as they show up. So of course, Sanya has the great idea to FaceTime Kenya to let her know that it's going to be a couples trip and that she wants her to bring a plus one. So mind you, when she FaceTimes Kenya, Kenya is still at Candy's house for Ace's birthday party. So when Kenya picks up, Drew and Kandi are right there. So Sanya says, hey girl, I'm inviting all of you guys over to my house on Saturday as a prelude to the Jamaica trip. So Kenya says, cool, sounds good. And now Sanya goes on about how the trip is going to be a couples trip and she wants Kenya to bring somebody. And it wasn't like Sanya just said it one time. She kept repeating how she wanted Kenya to bring somebody. And I was thinking, Sanya, this isn't the way to do something. I would have been irritated on that phone too. Like, girl, what are you saying? And while I don't agree with Kenya hanging up on her like that because that was disrespectful, I understood why she was so annoyed. Because it's like, you know I'm going through a divorce and my soon-to-be ex-husband is crazy and trying to destroy me. So this might not be in my best interest for me to bring a man on this trip because he could accuse me of infidelity or whatever have you. You know what I'm saying? You have to think about these things. So Sanya knowing this and trying to press her to bring a man on this trip, it's like, really, Sanya? And even Kandi and Drew were confused because Kandi said, I mean, we all know that Kenya's going through this divorce, so why is she stressing her to bring a plus one? Like, make it make sense. Like I said, Sanya is trying way too hard to be messy and it's just falling flat. And did you guys hear Marlo in the background talking about, yeah, she just hung up on you because she ain't got nobody to bring? I said, Marlo, let's not. Let's go down your track record because we have yet to see you with a boyfriend. We've seen you with maybe, 2 dates? Season 4, you were with that old white man at Cynthia and Peter's engagement party. We only saw him one time. And then we saw you with some other guy. It was around like season 11. It was a season when Eva and Shamari were on. And that lady, Yvonne from Clark Atlanta, remember her? She kept saying that she was that girl from Clark Atlanta. They were doing some wine tasting and Marlo brought some date. And it was some guy from production that she probably paid a few dollars to attend the event with her. Marlo and all her imaginary men and imaginary relationships talking about somebody else is very comical. I mean, no offense, Marlo, but the only real lover that you've had in your life are designer things. So Marlo, I'd keep it cute if I were you because you're not batting 1,000 in the love and romance department, okay? Then Marlo joking around how Sanya needs to kill her with kindness the same way that she does. I was thinking, clearly you're joking because you have one of the nastiest personalities ever and you've yet to be nice or kind to Kenya. Now we flip to this next scene with Marlo. She's going to see a parenting coach. Now I said, Marlo, when I told you to get some help, I said go see a therapist, not a parenting coach. But I guess this is the best that it's going to get. So anyhow, she goes to see Dr. Tart, and we learn that Dr. Tart was referred to her by Shereé. So Dr. Tart is a Christian psychologist. May I just say something quickly? Dr. Tart resembles Megan Good's ex-husband, Devon Franklin. I was like, they sort of favor, but that's neither here nor there. But anyhow, they start off the session with a prayer. So immediately after the prayer, Marlo starts crying and she says that she feels like a nervous wreck. So anyhow, Marlo starts going into the story about how she took her nephews in, and then she reveals that she got frustrated and she ended up kicking them out and sending them to live with her sister for 30 days. So Marlo continues on by saying that she gets upset because her nephews are taking things for granted and she wants them to respect her. Now, when Marlo went on to say how the boys take things for granted, let's just stop and think for a bit. These boys have been through a very rocky childhood. Their rich aunt takes them in. Their rich aunt is on TV. She has some fame, some notoriety. She lavishes them with nice things. It's not hard to believe that her nephews would eventually get accustomed to this lifestyle. She can't be upset at the fact that they've now grown used to the good life. And I think she wants to see that thankfulness from them. And I'm sure they're thankful, but when you get used to something, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much every single day. So now Dr. Tart interjects and he lets her know that parenting is not fun all the time and how boys don't listen to words, they respond to action. So he goes on to suggest that Marlo schedule in a weekly family meeting to check in and see how things are. Then he goes on to say that schedule some quality time, like do an activity together at least once a week, and, just check in with each other. So Marlo likes what the doctor is suggesting, and then she goes on to ask if it's a bad thing if she allows the boys to stay with her sister for the full 30 days. Dr. Tart says that's fine as long as the boys don't feel abandoned. Now, I thought that Dr. Tart gave some good advice. I hope that Marlo implements it. Personally, I think that it was a bad idea for her to even send them to her sister's house, but it seems like the boys are back with Marlo since it was found out about her house being robbed and how her nephews were at the house with her. So I guess, we'll see. So now we jump to the next scene with Kandi and Todd at home, and they're having a sit-down conversation with both of their daughters, Kayla and Riley, about their estate planning in case something should happen to either one of them. Now, this scene really pissed me off because Todd, there's something wrong as to why you want to see your daughter struggle and have to get it out the mud. I don't understand that, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But anyhow, as we all know, Riley is a sophomore at NYU, and Kayla is also in New York because she works in TV and production. So Kandi goes on to say how they both have individual and shared assets, and Bravo is so shady because when they went over the list of all Kandi's assets and Todd's assets, all Todd had was the Jersey condo. I was like, y'all are so wrong for that. So Todd goes on to say how the Jersey condo is Kayla's, and then he adds that if Kandi were to pass before him, he would be giving out the money in stages rather than a lump sum. Now, personally, I'm going to always take the lump sum. My dad was a lawyer. He always told us, take the lump sum. So when Riley was looking at Todd like, excuse me, I don't want it doled out in stages. I want it all right now. I said, Riley, you and I are on the same page because same. So already Todd is feeling a type of way because he can tell where this conversation is going. So he goes on to say that he doesn't like how they look at him like he wouldn't give them anything. And I'm like, well, Todd, you don't want to give your own biological daughter anything. So, yeah, Riley is right to have some sort of hesitation about, God forbid, her mom were to pass before you did. So now Riley says, well, you guys treat our lifestyles completely different. My mom is a bit looser with the purse strings, a bit more generous, and you, on the other hand, are a bit stingy. So Todd is offended. Kandi high-key agrees with Riley, and she goes on to ask Kayla how she feels. Now, did anybody notice that Kayla was a bit afraid to express how she feels? That's just really sad because Kayla should feel empowered to express how she feels and say what she wants. But I get the impression that Kayla walks on eggshells around Todd because we saw a few seasons ago where Kayla was saying that he's not affectionate and Todd was defending himself by saying, well, I'm showing you tough love. And my whole thing about that is, Todd, you weren't in Kayla's life for the first 13 years. Wouldn't you want to be spoiling your daughter and trying to make up for lost time? I just really can't understand how you bring a child in this world and you don't want to show your child love. There's just no way. Like, when I have kids, they'll be hearing, I love you, I'm proud of you. They'll be getting hugs and kisses every single day. That's what I got as a child. I get I love you and all that now. I just couldn't imagine being tough on my kids and them not ever hearing I love you or any of that stuff. I couldn't imagine it. The way Todd treats Kayla is just so infuriating. It's like, it's a mess. So now Kayla goes on to say that Todd is always in business mode. He's never in daddy mode. So now Kandi agrees and she interjects saying that Todd is always trying to teach them a lesson. So now at this point, Todd is really upset and he says that he's teaching Riley and Kayla how to be self-sufficient and independent. And I'm thinking, what is the fascination that Todd has, along with a lot of other Black people who feel like their kids have to get it out the mud? If you've been blessed with opportunities, if you've been blessed with money, why don't you want to give your child a leg up? You don't have to get it out the mud. You don't have to struggle for something. Things can be easy. It's not a crime. It had me thinking, God forbid if Kayla were to lose her job and she asked Todd for money, would he even give her any money or would he tell her to hustle harder? So the scene ends with Todd storming out the room, saying how they're all disrespectful and how they're ungrateful. I'm thinking, Todd, they told you the truth. That's how they feel. The way you have done your own daughter would give anybody a reason to be a bit concerned. So now we jump to a super short scene. Sanya's at home and she's texting all the women that when they come over her house on Saturday, it's also going to double as a surprise birthday party for Shereé. So everybody says that they're in, they're excited, and they'll see her then. Then we jump to another short scene with Shereé. She's out doing some fabric shopping, and she's discussing how She by Shereé is finally going to come into fruition. And like she said earlier, it's now or never, and how she made a promise to herself after she broke up with Tyrone to really focus on herself and the line. Now, this whole scene was a waste of time to me. I was thinking, I don't want to see Shereé looking at fabrics. I want to see her with an actual line. Spare me all this other stuff. Let's get to the part where she actually has some clothes to sell. That's when I'll take Shereé and this whole thing seriously. But until then, I'm like, okay, girl, we've seen this before. Like, it's been 14 years. I did think it was kind of funny, though, when she was telling the women at the store about how she's been getting requests from guys about joggers and how she wants to make sure that the men's joggers have a VPL. And they were looking at her like, wait, what? What's that? And she said a visible print line so you can see the dick print. Listen, when it comes to She by Shereé, all I have for Shereé is I'll believe it when I see it. So now we jump back to another scene with Kandi and Todd, and they're in their office discussing what went down with Riley and Kayla when it came to the estate planning. So Todd obviously feels a bit salty. He says that he doesn't F with them and how they're both entitled and ungrateful. Now, I don't care if Todd was joking. Don't make any jokes about your own kids saying that you don't F with them. Like, what are you talking about? You're that upset? And I was so happy when Kandi said they should be free to express themselves and say how they feel. And I also loved how Kandi corrected Todd and she said, I never said that I didn't trust you taking care of Riley. All I said was I'm a bit more freer when it comes to giving out money than you are. You're a bit more strict. So now they switch gears in the conversation and Kandi brings up the play. She says that she still feels down in the dumps about it, but another producer contacted her about getting involved in another Broadway play. But she doesn't know she wants to get involved in it because of what happened to Thoughts of a Colored Man. So she's asking advice on what to do, and Todd actually encourages her to go for it, and Kandi gives him a hug saying that she is the perfect partner in life. I said, do you, sis? Because my definition of a perfect partner is not a cheap or stingy man. But I guess we all have different preferences. And you caught when Todd said, it'll be a few less dollars that the kids get. And I was thinking, Todd, shut up. The way you act, I'll be surprised if you give them anything. So we jump to the night of Shereé's surprise birthday party at Sanya's house. Sanya, for you to be on national TV on The Real Housewives, and this is the kind of party that you throw, unacceptable. The decorations, where were they? Like, I was just so appalled because what was this? So Marlo, Kandi, Monyetta, and Drew arrived first. And when I tell you, Drew came to the door petty. Okay? First of all, she comes with no gift for Shereé. So Drew defends coming in empty-handed by saying, you saw what happened in Blue Ridge. I'm just here to wish her a happy birthday. And I'm thinking, now Drew, if you don't like Shereé like that, then why did you come? Because it is a bit tacky and very poor taste to come to a birthday party empty-handed. It's not going to kill you to come in and give her a token gift. A cute Joe Malone candle for $60 would have sufficed. And I also caught that shade that Drew was giving about Sanya living extremely far out. Because she was like, I mean, damn girl, I should have taken a plane to get here because it took me hours to finally get to your house. So now we see Kenya arrive, and of course, Marlo is instantly pressed. She's talking about she's not going to let Kenya steal her joy or kill her vibe. And it's like, once again, Marlo, you are clearly bothered by Kenya. Because for Kenya to have this much power over you, that's sad. If you are truly unbothered, then Kenya's presence shouldn't make a bit of difference. But I want you to admit to yourself that you're obsessed, jealous, and you want to be Kenya's friend. Marlo, there is nothing wrong with therapy. A good 90-minute session, twice or 3 times a week would get you right. So Kenya is complimenting Sanya's home, and Sanya offers to give Kenya a house tour. Now, if I were Kenya, I would have already suspected that something was up, because why didn't you offer the other women a house tour? Why are you only offering me a house tour? But anyhow, as they're walking around the house, they go into one of the rooms and Sanya tells Kenya that she wants to talk to her. So Sanya says, look, the other day when I was FaceTiming you about the trip, if I said something that offended you, you could have let me know that. But you hanging up on me, I didn't appreciate that. Now, while I don't care for Sanya, she does have a point because I'm going to be honest. If anybody hung up on me like that, I'd have an issue. So she has a right to feel how she felt, and I'll give her a point for that. So Kenya defends herself and says that the reason why she hung up on Sanya was because she did not like the way Sanya made her feel. And then Kenya continues on by saying that she's let a lot of stuff slide and how Sanya's tone on the FaceTime call was very off-putting and condescending. So Sanya denies being condescending on the phone and says that she was trying to tell Kenya that she could bring a friend, a man, anybody. And I have to call BS on that, Sanya, because what we saw, you kept saying to Kenya that this was a couple's trip and you want her to bring a +1. If you're stressing that it's a couple's trip, I'm not going to assume that I can bring just a friend. So Sanya apologizes and lets Kenya know that that wasn't her intention to make her feel bad, and now they hug it out and laugh. So while they're still in the room, the rest of the ladies are in the kitchen, and Kandi's telling Monyetta of what went down about Kenya hanging up on Sanya. So you have Marlo in the background saying a grown woman should never hang up on somebody. And I said, shut up, Marlo, because how you kicked them all off your trip like that was just as immature and rude too. So now Shereé finally arrives. They all scream out happy birthday and let her know that it's a surprise party for her. Shereé is shocked. She's touched. She can't believe that somebody that she's just met would throw her a surprise party. And I was like, girl, don't get too happy because this party is kind of raggedy. Now, when I tell you things just got progressively worse at this party, you have Sanya's assistant going around with beef patties. And I was like, Sanya, it was going to kill you to pay to have some servers there. Why do you have your assistant going around doing this? Also, you couldn't have plated the beef patties nicer. And another thing, that's all you have for hors d'oeuvres? Where was the charcuterie tray? And when Drew was asking if they cooked the food and Sanya said, no, we catered it, I was like, really? Because I didn't see catered food. It gave very much that you and your mom cooked that up before they got there. You have Shereé at the photo booth trying to get her picture taken, and the damn booth is broken. And Shereé had me screaming when she was like, I mean, this party has no white meat chicken, no bartender, dry ass food, and the photo booth is broken. I guess it's the thought that counts. I hope you weren't throwing parties like this when Ross was still in the NFL. Because if so, sis, you need some help. This ain't it. Leave the parties to the girls with some money and the girls who can afford a good party planner. Sanya threw a party that Gina from OC would throw. And you guys know how I feel about Gina. And if you watch OC, you know that Gina is broke. So now all the ladies are in the kitchen. And of course, the Blue Ridge trip gets brought up. And Kandi questions Drew about if she really carried those bones in her purse. So Drew says, I sure did. You always got to stay ready. So now Shereé cuts in and says, well, girl, you weren't ready that day. So now Drew goes on to say that Fatum threw rocks and hit her hand. And now Shereé's like, girl, what are you talking about? And when I tell you Shereé had me screaming, she was like, boo, I'm throwing tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes.
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, 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 I'm throwing tomatoes.
That's one of my favorite TikTok videos. So while they're going back and forth, Drew brings up Fatum getting a background check on her. And so Shereé interrupts and says, well, who am I talking to? Am I talking to Danielle, Andrew, Tiffany, like who? So now Drew brings up all the drama that happened with Fatum at Brooklyn's birthday party. And Shereé is like, Drew, what don't you get? Your assistant Anthony was the one running his mouth. Fatum was only repeating what she heard. Like, be mad at Anthony. So now Drew claps back and says, I mean, I know that you're getting older and all, so that's why you're probably forgetting stuff. So now Shereé claps back and says, bitch, I'm old and cold. You better hope you look like this when you get to be my age. And then you have Marlo being shady in the confessional saying that Drew's a pretty girl, but Shereé looks damn amazing to be 60. I was thinking, Marlo, you don't know how old your friend is? You know that Shereé's only a few years older than you. You're like, what, 47, 48? And Shereé's 52? And it was so funny when the producer corrected you and said, no, Shereé's only 52. And you're like, oh, like, she's gonna curse me out for that. I was like, Marlo, you were being shady. You know that nobody on the cast is 60. So now they finally stop arguing. And now it's time for them to cut the cake and sing happy birthday to Shereé. Now, a quick side note. I felt like that cake was too small and too plain. I was like, Sanya, you do know that Magnolia Bakery does deliver, so they could have shipped you out a cake. You could have gotten a beautiful, 3-tier cake, something, but that cake gave me, you baked that yourself and put some frosting on it, because I was like, what's that? But like Shereé said, it's the thought that counts, I guess. So Kandi tells Drew that she would love for Drew to sing happy birthday to Shereé. And Drew's like, nope, I'm not going to do that. So Shereé's like, girl, whatever. Don't sing then. Like, I'm over it. So now all of a sudden, Drew starts singing happy birthday to Shereé. And she actually does a pretty nice job. I was like, Drew, either you were going to sing to her or you weren't. But you did all that to end up singing to her. What was the point? So we end the episode with Sanya sitting all the ladies down to go over some rules for Jamaica. She says that the Jamaica trip cannot go the way Blue Ridge went because for her, it's still a work trip. So she says that they all need to come with water-friendly hair, no standoffs, no props. And we know that she's talking to Drew because Drew loves a prop. And then she says that weed is not legal in Jamaica, so if they bring it or they smoke it, they will be in jail. Now, this felt so corny to me, like Sanya wanted a moment. These are grown-ass women. They've been on many vacations, especially many cast trips. They know the protocols and the rules. So Sanya going over this with them, which is so dumb. And girl, you have all these rules over this trip, but you need to follow some rules when it comes to party planning, because this party was a complete bust. And you should feel embarrassed. Okay? The fact that you're on national TV, your husband is a former football player, you're a 4-time gold medalist, and this is the kind of party that you throw? But y'all, this was a great episode. I cannot wait to see how they cut up in Jamaica, because it looks like it's about to be some more drama between Marlo and Kandi, and then we see Kenya and Sanya getting into it, and then Ross defending his wife. So it's about to be a hot mess. But as always, y'all, thank you guys so much for watching my recap. I hope you all enjoyed, and you guys already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.